Hi everybody. This video is about adhesives, which is a pretty important subject because we use adhesives in so many of the processes of bookbinding. There's, over the past, 40 or 50 years, there's been certainly been a movement towards non-adhesive structures, which is, very valuable part of the work. But certain a lot of what we do requires adhesives, and knowing what adhesives to use in any particular context is really valuable. So I want to share a little bit about that, and hopefully it'll help you along as in your practice. So what we have when we talk about adhesives is we have glues and we have pastes. Pastes are generally plant derived, either a wheat or a starch. There's wheat flour, or pastes have been made from wheat flour, wheat starch, corn starch, pretty much any starch you can think of. Somebody's used it to stick stuff together. Rice starch, certainly. My preference is cornstarch, which if you've looked at the paste making video, that's what I show how to do. I like cornstarch a lot, partly because I like the workability. I also like the ease, how easy it is to make. This is cornstarch. This is a fresh bowl. Looking pretty good this morning. Okay. All right. It's this is firmed up a bit, so you can see it's kind of thick, but it'll brush out nicely. Nice and translucent. Good stuff. Okay. I prefer cornstarch because that's what I learned from my teachers, and one of the big advantage of it made this way is that it just doesn't take a lot of time. So when it becomes less of a chore, then it just makes things a lot easier, because instead of having to, take a half an hour to make a batch of paste, you do it in 5 minutes. And once, if your paste is, if it's August and the paste only lasts a couple of days, you just throw it away and make a fresh batch. Pastes have the characteristics of drying slowly. They also tack slowly. Okay, they get sticky. It takes them longer to get sticky than it does for a glue. So that means you have more time to readjust if necessary, to relay. It also means that because paste has a higher moisture content, it will humidify whatever you're applying it to relatively rapidly. And when you're doing paste downs, or when you're working with paper, you want to make sure that your paper is expanded completely. And so paste is the ideal adhesive for that. Plus it gives you time to work. So you can paste your paste down, pick all the goomers out, run your finger around the edge, check it again, make sure everything's square, close the board on it when you're casing in, flip it over, repeat on the other side, and you don't have to rush. You don't have to feel like if you don't get it done in a half a minute that everything is going to go south on you. And that's a huge advantage, because these things are hard enough to do when everything goes right. And when you're fighting your material or your adhesive, it just makes things really, really much harder for you. So the flip side of that is when you need something that's going to tack fast, like when you're covering cases, you want to use glue. And traditionally, bookbinders have used hide glue, which is made from, animals. Then again, so is our leather. So we can't really get too upset about hide glue if we're doing leather bindings, right? It's more likely that you're going to get upset because it has an odor, let us say. Anyway, this is ground glue. So hide glue comes in two forms. It comes in ground glue, which is, this is very kind of like coarse sand. You can also get what's called flexible glue, which has had glycerin added to it to make it flexible. I used to use, I've used both. In the past when I've used flexible glue, it's been fine, but it has a tendency to mold in hot weather, and the hide glue doesn't. So I assume that's a function of the glycerin. Either one is fine. There's a little bit more work involved in preparing hide glue than there is if you're going to use PVA. You have to take it and add water, and then you let it sit for a while, and it will gel. Then you add a little more water, and you let it sit a while longer. The idea is you want all of the glue granules to humidify and kind of pop and expand like popcorn. Traditionally, you let this sit overnight. I'm down to about 3 or 4 hours. You know, if I make it first thing in the morning, I fire up the glue pot before lunch, everything seems to be fine. But you also do need a glue pot, which will set you back about $100. But if you end up using a lot of hot glue, it's a worthwhile investment. You can't really see this. This is glue that has been in here for about 4 or 5 days, and it's gone off. So I have to get rid of that and put the new glue in. Hide glue is a really, really nice material. It brushes out when you've got it thin to the correct consistency. It brushes out very nicely. It gives you a little bit of working time. It's actually relatively clean, you know, surprisingly. And again, like paste, we know that this is reversible over centuries, which is a big deal. Hide glue's been used to make furniture for almost as long as furniture's been made, so you get the, you know, you kind of get an idea for that. Plus, you know, it's been used on books for, you know, probably easily 1,000 years. Glue, hide glue, paste, plant-derived paste, and then you get the more modern adhesives, the PVAs and the PVOHs. This is PVA here, you know, white glue, tweaked for what we do. The problem with PVA is it tacks fast, which is fine, but it dries almost as fast as it tacks, and that's where people run into problems, because you have to be able to work rapidly and precisely, otherwise you're going to run into problems. However, it does so many other things that it definitely has a place, you know, on the adhesive palette, if you want to think of it that way. It just doesn't do anything as well as the hide glue or the paste. But if you've done a reback and, you know, you come up, then, you know, you pick it up the next day and one of the turn-ins over the board hasn't taken, you just slide a little bit of PVA in there and you're good. You can also do a PVA paste mix, which a lot of people do, and certainly there's no shame there. I just, you know, kind of prefer my adhesives unadulterated, and that's probably just a, you know, personal silliness. So those 3 adhesives will do you very well. If you really don't want to use hide glue, you can substitute PVA. If you try and substitute PVA for paste, you're going to run into trouble. Can make PVA paste mix. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. Didn't go as long as I expected. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. I want to say thanks to everybody who has viewed these videos over the past, you know, few weeks. I'm very grateful that, you know, there's as much interest as there is. And if you have subscribed, I'm even more grateful. So thank you for that. I will be doing a paper, kind of a general paper video just insofar as it relates to what we do, not as, like history of paper or anything like that. If you, I do want to recommend, if you are interested in, paper making videos, I know there are a lot of them out there, but I would recommend you hunt down the University of Iowa videos that Tim Barrett made, because they're really, really, really fun. Anyway, I think that's all I had to say about adhesives, although there's a lot more that, there's a lot more to cover. But anyway, thanks again for looking, and I will be back.